Good evening, hockey fans, and welcome to another episode of Pod Snipe Celly. My name is Dan Bradley. Alongside me tonight, getting funky with it. A little dance to start the show. The one and only Joel Fernino. Joel,
I'm back.
he is back. We
And
missed him last week. You were at a concert last week, as I recall.
I was seeing Spirit Box for any of my metalheads out there. They are phenomenal, great show. Man, I feel like I'm such an elderly person when it comes to concerts. I can't really mosh anymore. But more importantly, I've had a week to ride this insane high that I continue to be on.
Here we go.
The minute I buy a Connor Bedard jersey, when it becomes official, and it's
you mean
sale,
you haven't already?
They're not for sale. He's not officially a Blackhawk yet.
You can still buy it and treat it like it's a custom jersey.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, HP is saying the same thing.
Oh God!
Here we go.
You're damn right. And you know what? I want to thank Tim for
filling in for you last week.
Well, yes, I want to thank HP for filling in for me last week. That's one thing. Tim for also being on our show, our draft lottery reaction show, our live reaction show. He was a great sport, and hell, you know what? He got an amazing quote consolation prize anyway, so it's okay.
HP is saying the Hawks could draft Fantilli and let Bedard slide down to 2. Yeah. That's definitely still a possibility at this point.
That's a good way to get yourself fired.
Probably.
Also, don't be like all the other random fan bases. Like I've seen a Bruins fan account do this, and I think I also saw I think it was a Canadians like fan. Again, these are both fan accounts. They're not like official things. They just happen to pop up randomly as things do on Twitter and Facebook. But like just drafting up these weird trade packages for us to give them first overall. And I'm just like, I didn't know that weed was legal in both of those, in that province and that state. But,
Yeah, what you going to do?
Oh, there will be plenty of talk about Connor Bedard. But the first thing we have to obviously cover is the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. That was arguably and maybe controversially way less riveting than the first round was.
I think there was still some entertainment. I think the big issue was the Eastern Conference wasn't as competitive top to bottom as
series ended in 5.
Yikes. Yeah, it wasn't nearly as competitive as no, it was 6 in the Leafs series. Was it not?
No, the Leafs went down 3-0. They won one game and then lost.
This is what happens. They win the series so quickly, and then my brain just can't put 2 and 2 together for when these games are ending and who wins where.
We had 2 5s.
That's right. It was 5. You're right.
Yeah, Carolina over the Devils in 5, Florida over the Leafs in 5, and then of course last night we had Dallas over the Kraken in 7, and then crazily enough, Vegas over Edmonton in 6, not even 7.
Yeah, that was actually where I wanted to get started tonight. By the way, comm major, not math major, so that's why I can't count to 5.
But communications involves counting. Like you have countdowns.
Allegedly.
Like we have a countdown at the beginning of the show. Can you not learn from that?
Yeah, but you notice it's counting down, not up.
I mean, I get that, but you just, flip it and reverse it,
Missy Elliott style.
Yeah, exactly. Oil spill. Oh,
that's exactly what it was. The Vegas Golden Knights beat the Edmonton Oilers, as Joel mentioned, in 6 games. And I want to start, Joel, by asking, why in the world was this game a 10 o'clock start on a Sunday night? You have McDavid and Draisaitl, 2 of the top 3 players on the planet, in an elimination game at home.
Yeah.
You have the return from suspension of Darnell Nurse and Alex Pietrangelo.
Yep.
You have the story of the number 1 and number 2 overall picks from the same draft in McDavid and Eichel going at it in the playoffs for the first time. And you relegate that game to 10 o'clock on Sunday night. And not only that, you have it start after Sunday Night Baseball. And oh, by the way, that game is going to run long. It is a 9-1 game with two sub-500 teams in the bottom of the ninth, and you can't cut into playoff hockey. You can't even put up a little blurb on the bottom of the screen that says, hey, this game is on ESPN2. We're going to start the broadcast there and then join you in progress. No, they couldn't even do that and put that little bug up on the screen so people knew where to go. And by the time they switched over from Sunday Night Baseball to hockey, 3 goals had been scored. What are we doing here?
Yeah, we obviously make fun of the NHL for their scheduling. That was
so dumb.
Stupid. I'm not going to blame the NHL solely for the whole, little tandem screen thing that we saw with the Sunday Night Baseball and the Game 6. That was definitely ESPN's what they thought was creative, which, yeah, I guess maybe it was a little creative, but and quite frankly, here's the thing. I don't even know if I had a deal. I don't even know if I had an issue too much with doing the side-by-side. I mean, I do, but I think the bigger issue of doing the side-by-side was at least pick the semifinal Game 6 potential clinching games audio over Red Sox and Cardinals, and it's a 9-1 game.
Saying this as someone who is a Cardinals fan, that's my second team.
You reminded me, and I want to throw up in my mouth.
Yeah, throw up all you want. That's how I was feeling. Like I was going to throw up seeing that they weren't switching away from this stupid game that the Cardinals won, by the way, to cut into hockey. Like there are so many things that they got absolutely wrong with this schedule. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about it because I do want to talk about what happened in the game and what happened in the series. Starting with the Pietrangelo suspension. The Pietrangelo suspension and the Darnell Nurse suspension, both somewhat controversial, but in opposite ways, with Nurse's being, was he really instigating when there were rumors that he was asked to fight? And was one game enough of a suspension for Pietrangelo?
I have maybe I'm a meathead for this. I have a large issue with Nurse being suspended at all. I don't, okay, you instigated and there was some fighting, but it wasn't even that much of a fight. It was a scuffle and he gets suspended for that. Fine him then. Fine him $5-10K and call it a day. That to me was not suspension worthy. Again, I might sound meatheaded, because I know there's plenty of people that want fighting completely gone out of the game, and that's all fine and good, but I think that was stupid. That was like the opposite of what the entire officiating crews on every series are doing with swallowing their whistles. In this case, the league wasn't swallowing the suspensions here. And then when it comes to Pietrangelo, that I understand. That was a blatant I'm going to chop your hand off with my stick, especially when you're down. What were they down? They were down like 3 goals, I think, right?
Yeah, it was pretty lopsided at that point.
And it was a third. There was probably no coming back in that game for them.
Yeah. Especially when you put yourself shorthanded for 5 minutes, because he did take a major HP saying should have rescinded the Nurse suspension. Pietrangelo gets a game. If Nurse got 1, Pietrangelo should have gotten 2.
I also would have had a problem with that. It was a blatant slash. I'm not arguing that, but I don't think you give somebody 2 games for a slash that didn't result in an injury. I know it can, but it didn't. 2 games for when tensions get high, things happen.
But that's penalizing because of the result of the action, not because of the action itself. To me, I thought he should have been gone through the end of the series, and he was very lucky that he wasn't.
That's too much. I totally disagree. Again, maybe I'm meatheaded when it comes to the playoffs, but that's...
And I get it. Usually the rule is a suspension for 1 playoff game constitutes what would be a 2-game suspension in the regular season. To me, when he had this wasn't just your slash on the hands from like waist level. I mean, the stick was above his head.
I know. It was
I'm just explaining to the people too that didn't see it and don't know what we're referencing here. That stick was above his head and right down on the hands. And frankly, he's also lucky that he didn't break Dreisaitl's hands.
Yeah.
Because that would have been even worse for everybody involved.
All right, including the league, and then okay, you're maybe you're talking me into it a little bit, but then again, that's also that would be kind of favoritism. Then it's like that'd be a little favoritism. But you know what? No, I agree, and ultimately, I agreed with you. You had a take in a group chat that we have saying that Nurse being away from the Oilers is going to be far worse than Pietrangelo being away from the Knights. As pivotal as Pietrangelo is to Vegas, Vegas is much deeper at the defensive position as well as they're a deeper team in general. Case in point.
That's why they won the series.
Exactly, and I totally agree. Now, what did live up to, when it comes to the teams, I think we all were kind of in agreement that this was going to potentially go 7. It didn't do that. It was close.
You're anticipating 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Less than that would have been a big surprise.
Yeah. I mean, quite frankly, even not going 7 to me was a little surprising. Both teams looked really good for the most part, but then the thing that did live up to the hype, though, was Eichel versus McDavid. Both of them showed up, showed out, just put on a show for everyone to see, their own fans and everyone else watching. It was great. I don't have the numbers in front of me of how they each
I'm getting them up for you right now. So.
All right. Yeah, I forgot to pull up the numbers for how exactly they did in the specific series, but I believe Eichel had.
Well, let me get Eichel first since you're talking about him.
I want to say he had like 6 to 7 points in the series, maybe. I thought I saw he had 6 points to McDavid.
He had 9.
He had 9. Okay.
He had 7 assists.
That was
three goals, 6 assists. 9
I was looking at 3. I was looking at 3 goals. I was looking at the 6 assist stat line during one of the games. That's what it was. So yeah, he had 9 points, 3 goals, 6 assists in the series, and McDavid
had 10.
10 points.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is that? 4 goals, I think.
He had 5 and 5.
5 and 5, yeah. So that lived up. 9 points and 10 points respectively. That absolutely that battle lived up. McDavid, it's almost kind of poetic. Like McDavid had 1 more point and more goals, but ultimately Eichel
gets the last laugh because he's going to play at least 1 more series.
Yeah, he's going to play in his first ever conference finals that he's ever been in. And dude, how about the Knights, man? 5 of the last 6 seasons, conference finals.
Unbelievable that it's ridiculous once again.
Or wait, sorry, not 5 of the last 6 seasons conference. Actually, wait, no. Sorry, but 5 of the last 6 seasons, at least. Deep runs into the playoffs. Like it's crazy. I love it because the Golden Knights are my second team, obviously, as I've mentioned. But I also. There was a part of me that was like, look, I had Edmonton winning the cup, so
yeah, it stings a bit. I'm happy with the result because I had Vegas versus Dallas in the Western Conference Finals, and we'll get to Dallas here in a minute. But that is the Western Conference Finals matchup. And if you're keeping an eye on your Conn Smythe watch, Eichel is now tied for the favorite with Sebastian Aho of the Carolina Hurricanes at plus 600. Those are your front runners over a couple of guys that I thought might be higher up. Even
over Pavelski?
Over Pavelski. Pavelski isn't even the highest rated or the best odds player, I should say, on the Dallas Stars.
Wow. Rupe Hintz.
Rupe Hintz.
Yeah. Yep. I was going to say Rupe Hintz as well.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Well, let's go ahead and talk Dallas here then. They did win in 7 games, harpooning the Seattle Kraken. Pete DeBoer moves to 7-0 as a coach in Game 7s in the playoffs.
Yep.
Dallas is really looking good right now. They had some shaky moments in that series. Frankly, I know the score shows it was a 2-1 game. For me, Dallas was in control most of that game. That was a game that they were pretty consistently all over Seattle. They get the 2-1 win, never trailed in the game, and Dallas moves on to take on Vegas.
And also, I'm going to correct myself. I was thinking 2 of the last 3 times they were in the playoffs, they were in the conference finals. It's crazy.
Oh, for Vegas?
For Vegas, yeah. Yeah, I think my biggest message from this series is both the Kraken as a team and as a fan base have or should be so proud of their team. The fans should be proud of their team. The team should be proud of themselves. Like I'm pretty sure not many people would really argue that no one had the Kraken making it out of the first round, let alone making it 1 game away from the conference finals.
I think there were a lot of people this year who didn't even have Seattle as a playoff team. You saw with where they were finishing in the standings last year, and especially knowing you have Vegas, Edmonton, LA to try and get through on your way through there.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, they were exciting. And I mean, that's why this league is so awesome and needs to be marketed as such. That, the only other league where you can really go, I won't mean it literally worst to first, but you can go from picking 4th overall in the draft to being 1 game away in a game 7, nearly making it to the conference finals the very next year. The only other league you really see that type of stuff happening is the NFL most of the time.
Yeah, and even then, it's usually there was some extenuating circumstance that took that team down. You had dramatic injuries, to key players or something like that, which wasn't really the case with Seattle last season. It was just this is a brand new team that hasn't played together, is still kind of figuring things out. And by the time they got through the year, it was, okay, here's where we're at now. What do we need to do to kick this up a notch? And they absolutely did. Jared McCann being a 40-goal scorer and missing chunks of the series, I think that was big. I don't know that it ultimately would have made the difference and turned the tide for Seattle, but that was a big absence that was felt early on in the series. Miro Heiskanen taking a puck to the face and missing the rest of that game, but not missing the rest of the series was big. Dallas finding a way to, once again, they lose 2 of the first 3 games of the series and then come back to win, including losing overtime at home in game 1. A 4-goal effort from the aforementioned Joe Pavelski in that game.
Dude,
it really was an impressive series for Dallas. Rupe Hintz, we've been talking about him.
He's so good.
He's so good. He's 1 point behind McDavid for the playoff points lead, which all indications at this point would be that he would pass, barring the worst cold stretch or injury that we've seen. But he's your soon-to-be points leader. Have to think that he'll get at least 1 point in the opener against Vegas. Are you looking up the odds for a Rupe Hintz anytime point?
No. In game 1?
Yeah. You don't have to. I thought that's what you were looking up there for me.
No, I was looking at something else, but I will take a look at that for you, actually.
Yeah, and the last really big talker, I think, from this series was Jake Ottinger and his ability to recover from a loss and continue to just keep it rolling. And he doesn't have really back-to-back bad games. I thought maybe, game 4 was game 3 was the loss. Game 4, he had a back-to-back games with a sub-900 save percentage. And then he had a 778 save percentage and got pulled from game 6. I was really worried with what he was going to do. Otter came back and delivered in Game 7.
Oh, absolutely. He is truly solidifying himself as, I mean, one of the top 5 goalies in the league moving forward. And I know it's just playoff, but still, I mean, he's really coming into his own. Also, by the way, just to derail really quick, you said Rupe Hintz anytime goal, right?
I said anytime point, but yeah, let's go anytime goal.
Well, anytime goal for Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
Rupe Hintz is plus 210 for an anytime goal.
Interesting.
Solid.
Are you looking that up on betstamp and odds shopping?
I am looking it up on betstamp and odds shopping.
Look at this guy making the sponsors happy.
Come on. This is the first I get to talk about him, right?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up because we should probably bring up the who you got. Golden Knights versus Stars, Western Conference Finals. While you're doing that, I'm going to get those series odds up and we can show off betstamp, and I'll let you talk about it, and I'll be your Vanna White.
Absolutely. Well, so who you got, along with just our podcast in general, is brought to you by Betstamp, as I've mentioned. The app is great. It's a great app. It's helping thousands of people win at sports betting, like hopefully me, and it's definitely been helping Dan. And by the way, it's helping you win for free.
Yeah, free app.
It is a free app.
Yeah, look at this little run we went on here. If I can get that to show up, 11% ROI. Getting a little hot streak put together. Some playoff points coming through there. So love to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll tell you a little bit more about Betstamp after. Gotta love being sponsored by that. Hell yeah, dude! We do. And we thank them, and we will be talking about them more when we get to.
Well, let's do it right now, anyway. Just because we got.
Yeah. All right. Well, so as I mentioned, we are sponsored by Betstamp, and so what is Betstamp? You're probably asking the elated Joel Fernino. Elated because Connor Bedard's going to be a Blackhawk. I'm going to throw that in anytime I can, by the way. So it's kind of the same way as like travelers use Google Flights or Expedia to find the best prices, right? So bettors can use Betstamp to do the exact same thing. So what you just saw on Dan's screen. So when you place a bet, the odds given by a sports book will determine how much you can possibly win. Even when betting on the same outcome, different sports books will offer varying payouts, right? So, and these differences can be huge. So Dan was just looking at a comparison like what I was doing. I was comparing FanDuel to DraftKings to Barstool. Those are the 3 main apps that I use. So that's one of the big things, right? And why is that? Why is all of this important? Well, thankfully, Betstamp allows you to easily line shop for the most profitable odds across all of those sportsbook I just mentioned. And it's not just the 3 I mentioned. There's a hell of a lot more depending on what state you're in. You can click on any matchup and instantly see all the different odds for game lines, player props, and even futures too, including this series that we're about to preview. Line shopping is the simplest way to find an edge in sports betting and maximize your chances of winning long term. On average, Betstamp users win an extra $1,000+ a year. $1,000 a year. Dan, would you love an extra $1,000 a year?
I would love an extra grand. Absolutely.
As would I. I would probably pump half of it back into my apps. No, I don't have a problem. But just by line shopping, right? So, Dan, tell the people how you find Betstamp. Where can you find it?
Yeah, so you can go to www.betstamp.app/podsnipecelly. You can download the app from that link. You can sign up for sportsbooks using our referral code, podsnipecelly. Make the sponsors happy, make us happy. Send us a picture that you did it as well. Let us know that you downloaded. Again, it's free. You are under no obligation to be placing bets. You cannot place bets through the app. Just make sure that you are 21 years of age or older, and in a state where sports betting has been legalized. Those are important factors as well. No offshore books, no underage, none of that. But beyond that, Betstamp, your go-to betting tool. And I'm going to show just a real quick picture here as well. Just looking ahead to it's a little early for some of the player props, but that's really where I've been finding a lot of betting value, you get those differences. So this is a Carter Verhaeghe goal, Thursday night, Florida versus Carolina. So 3 different books listed here. DraftKings and PointsBet both have a Verhaeghe anytime goal plus 155. Caesars has it at plus 170. So making that bet at plus 170 with a Verhaeghe goal is going to get you that much more when you make a winning bet and Verhaeghe scores. I think he might. HP with a good question here. What if I'm in a state that is lame and won't let me sports bet? Can I still download the app? Yes, you can still download the app. I'm just going to make sure, HP, knowing that you're on the road quite a bit, and in states where sports betting is legal while you're on the road, just make sure that you're placing your bets legally and in the most appropriate way to do so.
And we'll get one more view of my what I'm looking at right here. Oh, we good? See it?
Yeah, it's a little blurry.
Yeah, a little blurry. That's okay. What I'm looking at is exactly what we are going to pick on, right? Who you got? Well, for game 1, I'm looking at money line, just money line right now. And I see the best odds right now. At least if you want to say Dallas is going to win game 1, you can get plus 114 odds on FanDuel, and also minus 225 if you want to pick them at plus 1.5. So clearly the lines are leaning Vegas for game 1, as we can tell. And see, the whole point of this is I'm able to tell that across all of these different apps, whether you have them or not, on the Betstamp app. It's awesome. Go check it out. Like we said, help out Betstamp, help us out, because you love us. Maybe you love Dan more than me. Maybe you love me more than Dan. You probably love me the most. But go check out Betstamp. It's awesome. And as Dan said, just go to betstamp.com/pod Snipe Celly. No spaces, because there are some people that think entering a URL you need spaces.
Yeah, no spaces, no underscore. None of that.
No not like when you're searching for us on Apple or Spotify, when you actually have to put the commas in.
We're changing that, by the way.
I think we already did. I actually had my coworker look for us, and he subscribed. We got a new subscriber.
There we go. Thank you to our new subscriber. Joel, so I think you and I are both in agreement about Vegas taking game 1.
My heart tells me that. My brain, it also does tell me that, yes, I think we are in agreement on Vegas ultimately taking this one. The way I won't be surprised is if Ottinger just keeps being Jake Ottinger. Because if you can stifle the pretty deep, offense that Vegas has, like obviously their defense is just as deep as their offense, so they kind of come at you in a couple different ways. That's why they're so good. But if Ottinger can stand on his head, and then obviously, Dallas's defense can help him out, and they're scoring like Rupe Hintz, Joe Pavelski. If they can do what they did against Edmonton, I'm a little nervous, but the only difference is, no offense to the Wild, the Wild's defense,
it was not as good.
The Wild's defense in round 1 for Dallas, pretty thin. But as thin as the Wild's defense is in round 1, Edmonton's defense was even thinner in round 2. So now Dallas really has their true first defense test, in my opinion. But yeah, I think we're in agreement. I think Vegas can take this, and I think Vegas is going to another Stanley Cup final.
Okay, I texted you and HP this one the other day about the differences with the Kraken and the Wild as Stars playoff opponents. Kraken hits per 60 over the course of that series, and actually through the playoffs, was 40.06. Wild's was 30.28. Kraken takeaways per 60, 9.06. Wilds were 6.27. The Wild won a playoff worst 41.5% of their offensive zone faceoffs. It's almost as bad as 2 years ago when they had a 35.3% offensive zone win percentage. Those are the ones that you should absolutely be dominating, Because defense, they're just going to try and win it straight back. They're not going to push it to the wing. They might tie up, but those are the ones that you should be winning. As far as what Vegas brings for center depth and for team defense, that's going to be a very, very tough test for Dallas. From a Dallas team standpoint, one guy that you really need to keep an eye on if you haven't been paying attention already is Thomas Harley, who throughout the playoffs has kind of, I don't want to say flown under the radar, but in a way he kind of has here. But he had 7 points in that series. He had a goal and 6 assists. And is second among Dallas defensemen in points. And somebody who I didn't think coming into the series as a 21-year-old defenseman that he was going to be playing as big a role for Dallas as he has been. He has really impressed me so far in these playoffs. But I look at Vegas and what they bring team defense, not just from their defensemen, but their team defensive structure.
Exactly. Yep.
That's a tough team to score goals on. And then when you do, it seems like whatever goaltender they put back there is going to do well. You had Laurent Brossoit, who was playing well, got hurt. Aiden Hill comes in. He's playing well. And you just look at the whole Vegas goaltending situation this year. It's been awful. They lost Robin Leonard at the start of the season, done for the year. Later in the season, you lose Logan Thompson, who was having an outstanding season for Vegas this year. Had he been healthy through all of it, could have been a top 5 in your Vezina voting. He's hurt. They traded for Jonathan Quick just to add a little bit of veteran experience and depth. So he's in the room, but he hasn't been playing. And then you have Brossoit and Hill, and it's just next man up, whoever it is. Vegas just has it figured out goaltending-wise, no matter who's back there. Whereas I think if anything happens with Ottinger, or if he starts to struggle, it's like, where do you go? Vegas can roll out a hot hand. Dallas really can't.
I see what you did there.
What?
I see what you did there. Vegas can roll out a hot hand.
I didn't even mean to do it.
Come on, yes, you did.
I'm that good. It just happens organically.
It happened. But no, I agree. I mean, and to your point too, that was the other thing I wanted to touch on too, is Aiden Hill. I mean, I'm not going to say Aiden Hill is better than Jake Ottinger, because I truly don't think he is. He's not. But he actually has a better save percentage throughout the playoffs.
He does. And part of that is
his team defense
structure.
But that's the thing. And he has stepped up, truly. Mm-hmm. Like you said, their goalie situation has been terrible. But he really has stepped up, and I mean, you really saw it in games 5 and 6, realistically, against Edmonton. Mm-hmm. He shut them down. So did their defense. But yeah, I think if we put a bow on it, I think we both agree that the Knights are going to take it. Now, how many games before we move on?
Well, hang on, because I am taking the Stars to win the series.
What?
I still have to do that because I picked them to win the Cup.
Oh, yes, that's
right. I still have to take the Stars to win the series.
I forgot.
But man, Vegas looks good. I frankly, oh boy.
I forgot.
I don't want to say the winner of this series takes the Cup, but it almost feels that way. Almost.
I was leaning towards.
The conference final is going to be so good too. Like, there's not a lot to separate these teams. I do have one stat I want to throw out before we move on, because this is fascinating to me. When we talk about playoff hockey and how everything is ratcheted up, the teams that are the playoff leaders in hits, 8 of the top 10 teams in playoff hits per 60 have been eliminated from the playoffs. Actually, scratch that. 9. I said 8. 9 of the top 10 teams in playoff hits have been eliminated. The one team left standing from that bunch is the Florida Panthers.
I mean, goes to show you the game is a changing.
It is. I think the bigger factor is when you look over at, say, blocked shots. But even there, only one of your top 10 teams in blocked shots per 60 is still alive. And I think the shift that we're seeing there is if you're hitting and if you're blocking shots, you don't have the puck. The other team has the puck.
Yep.
So I'd take a lower hit and block per 60 rate at this
Florida
point.
rakes the Leafs.
They did. Toronto finally gets to the second round of the playoffs.
And they forget that there's a second round of the playoffs.
Yeah. They lose 3 home games. 3 home games they lose in the second round. Kyle Dubas is unsure if he even still wants to have a job.
I don't think I would blame him if I'm being truly honest with you. I don't like at this point, and that's the thing too. To what point is he to blame? Because at this point, I don't think he's to blame. Because it's not for lack of trying, man.
Mm-hmm.
He made so many moves at the deadline, pretty good depth moves too.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do you just say like, the players need to perform? These players that you are paying top dollar for, Matthews, Marner, Nylander, and yes, they're performing, but not to the extent that you need to perform in order to move on into the playoffs. It's. I mean, I think the best thing I saw was a little parody video. I forgot where I saw it, and it was simply just the Leafs going nuts. Every other team getting ready for the second round, and all the Leafs are, every Leaf player is like, "What's the second round? We won. There's only one round, right?"
Yeah,
that to me is that's how they looked.
When you consider that in those 5 games, you had Marner with a goal and 2 assists in that series. You had Austin Matthews with no goals, 2 assists. You had William Nylander, who 2 goals, 1 assist. And you had John Tavares with no goals, 1 assist. That's nearly half your salary cap completely disappearing come playoff time. And you can say it's a lack of experience because the lack of trips to the second round. Maybe you call that a factor, but to see those guys disappearing, like, and people are saying, the Leafs need to blow it all up and rebuild. What trade value do those guys have right now?
Oh,
because they're great regular season performers at massive cap hits who are struggling to get it done come playoffs.
And that's
what team is going to give up assets that can accelerate a rebuild if you decide to blow it up?
And that's the thing. I mean, you get rid of the talent that currently sits. I don't care how they didn't perform. You get rid of all that talent. You're setting a franchise back a decade. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know how far back you're setting them, but it's a long time. Matthews and hell, what they need to probably worry about right now is Austin Matthews walking for nothing.
Entirely possible.
Exactly. And I'm sure they, in all reality, just jump into reality. They probably will get something done. It sounds like, Matthews doesn't want to leave. He wants to stay. He wants to run it back. But how many times are you going to run it back? The definition of an insanity is doing the exact same thing over and over again and expecting the same result. It's exactly what the Bulls do every year. it's I just don't understand. I really don't. And I agreed with you that maybe they could pull a Washington Capitals and finally get over that hump, finally get past the first round. Caps finally got past the Penguins and finally got past the second round. And what did they do? They rode that wave, finally getting over the hump, and just were a semi-truck going down the hill the rest of the way and won the Stanley Cup. I really bought into that the Leafs could potentially do that. I don't think they would have been. I never bought into them being this wagon that was just going to destroy the rest of the competition that is in the playoffs right now. But I definitely thought they could have rode that high, because now they're like, oh my God, we finally got over it. We know what it's like. Let's keep going. No, let's get our asses kicked in 5 games.
We want Florida. That aged like milk so fast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
and you know what?
Blow up in their face.
And the thing is credit to Florida. What did I told you last night? It's almost as if Florida is like a year behind what they were supposed to be doing. Like last year, they were the President's Trophy winner. They were the juggernaut that we thought was just going to roll through the playoffs. Didn't happen. Got bounced in the second round. Swept. And now all of a sudden they're looking at the Eastern Conference Final, potentially rolling at a high good enough to make it to the Stanley Cup Final. So credit to Florida. Credit to Matthew Tkachuk.
Credit to Matthew Tkachuk. Credit to Sergei Bobrovsky, the
number one cop on the force.
He's back. He is back on the case, and shining in that series as well. Allowed 2 goals in each of the games. He had a save percentage in the regular season, I want to say, it was like 889, something like that. It was somewhere in the
Florida
like
fell under the radar.
And he's up to a 918.
Yeah. Florida was just kind of there. They were just a team. Bobrovsky. All the Bobrovsky.
The chat blowing up with Bobrovskys. We love to see it.
But that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like it's almost like they coasted. Like it's like they knew they were still just as good of a team as they were last year. Obviously, they traded, they had that big splash of a trade, which very much worked out in their favor.
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah. Where's Calgary at? Where are they at right now? They're on the golf course, on the greens.
Yeah. They're
for the last 5 to 6 weeks now. But they just kind of coasted through the regular season. They kind of pulled honestly what the Hawks were doing most of the 2010s after they established themselves as a juggernaut. If there was a season where it's like, oh yeah, they're all right. No, it's not that they're all right. They're just not wasting all of their energy because they know when the true hockey matters, and that's in the playoffs. And that's exactly what Florida looks like.
Yeah, it's all of the pieces coming together at the right time and getting guys to elevate their own game as a team. Florida just seems to have it figured out. I mean, they have 17 different skaters who have recorded a point. You have defenseman Brandon Montour tied for the team lead with 6 goals. He's just absolutely gone off.
Yeah,
Tkachuk has been – I don't want to discredit what he did in Calgary, but he has shown more leadership this year with Florida than I think he did with Calgary. Now, whether that's a matter of not being given the opportunity to be a leader in Calgary or being given more of an opportunity and responsibility for that leadership role with Florida, either way, he has absolutely stepped up from a leadership standpoint on and off the ice through these playoffs.
There's something to be said, too, about his motivation. Like when a trade like that is made, it virtually, I know it wasn't, at the end of the day with the draft picks and with Mackenzie Weegar being involved on the other end, like it wasn't a 1-for-1 trade, but based off of last season going into, this past off season, when you trade Jonathan Huberdeau for Matthew Tkachuk, I'm excluding everything else part of that package. that kind of 1-for-1 swap, it's like at the time you're like, whoa, like Huberdeau was a MVP finalist.
He's a multi-season 100-point producer.
And you drafted him. He's been your darling of your team. Yeah. He's been a leader of your team, and you trade him. And I'm putting myself as if I'm in Matthew Tkachuk's shoes. Like, for me, like that to me, there's got to be a motivation factor there. Like, he comes in and he's got to know, like, like Calgary was all right. Things were not necessarily going our way. We were a good team, but couldn't get it done. And you just traded your MVP along with some other things for me. Like
Mackenzie Weegar, a big part of that deal too.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you just traded 2 massive pieces to your franchise to get me. So Matthew Tkachuk took that and was probably like, hell yeah, it's like a newfound life. Not that he needed it. He's still young and he's just going to get better and better. But
yeah, and he signed the 8-year extension as well. So he's going to be with the Panthers for a long time.
Right.
Through the end of the 29-30 season.
Right, exactly. So
this is going to get interesting. Both Barkov and Tkachuk have their deals set to expire in the 29-30 season.
I mean,
which would be $19.5 million in a cap hit.
Well, if things go well, maybe the cap will be way higher than it is right now.
Well,
or maybe there won't even be a salary cap.
We should be so lucky.
I know.
You and I were talking about that earlier today. Like, we should be so lucky at that point.
To be fair, if there was no salary cap, I think the Hawks would have won 7 cups in a row. But
I mean, probably they keep that whole group together as long as they do. They win a few beyond what they already did.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway,
you know what? I'm gonna do it. I hate that I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna do this because we had a question in the chat about when was the last time a President's Trophy winner won the Stanley Cup.
David,
and I hate that I have to.
No, you don't even have to answer it. I got you, David. You are my guy for asking that question because the last time a team won the President's Trophy and won the Stanley Cup was the Chicago Blackhawks in 2013. The post-lockout season. That is the last time a team won the President's Trophy and won the Stanley Cup. I didn't do my homework because I was at a concert, but I do want to go back in the entire history of the league and see how many times teams have broken that curse. Because a short season doesn't count. Yeah, okay. All right. Spoken like a true Minnesotan. Making excuses.
David, I'm not mad.
David.
But I am hurt. I'm disappointed.
David's a realist, man. He recognizes history no matter what it involves.
Moving on.
David is a respectful man.
Best man at my wedding.
He's also your brother.
He's my little brother, so I'm going to dunk on him a little bit.
I'm going to defend him.
The Hurricanes,
pour holy water on the power of the cane compels you.
Absolutely flummoxed the Devils. I don't think similar to how Toronto did not look ready after an emotional first-round series for the Devils. It was getting past the Rangers and winning your first playoff series in 10 years, 11 years. 2012 was the last time they won a playoff game, and that was won a playoff series, excuse me.
Yeah. I gotcha.
It was the year they advanced to the Cup final before losing to the Kings in the start of their mini dynasty. It had been a long time coming. You beat your biggest rival to get to the second round, and then you go up against a Carolina team that just absolutely stifles any opposing offense. They give up the fewest shots per game of any team in the playoffs. They are able to just shut you down in so many ways and control the game. Carolina's a scary team too.
Carolina has proven me wrong, admittedly, but proven a lot of people wrong and really flexed their depth. I mean, as deep as we said Vegas is, Carolina's arguably deeper. And it's showing because we were talking about who they lost. You lose Teuvo Teravainen for all of the rest of the playoffs. Svechnikov is still out.
He's done.
He's done. So that those two alone,
Teuvo might be back. Svech is done, but Teuvo was a full participant in practice on Monday, which is amazing.
That's a warrior, and I can tell you firsthand, if Carolina goes to the Cup final, Teuvo in a Cup final, I know it's a small sample size, but in a Cup final series, he is a difference maker. I know firsthand.
The idea that he had hand surgery and is potentially going to be back.
I mean, that's hockey players are built different, and I mean
they are
better. They are truly built different.
I went for a run this morning, and my knee has been sore all day. This guy gets hand surgery, and he's like, "I'm gonna come back and play. It's no big deal.
Yeah, I'll be all right. I'll be fine."
Yeah,
Look, I hate to say it this way because the Devils also should truly be same thing like the Kraken. The Devils should really be proud of what they accomplished. They knocked out a Stanley.
They was laughing at my hashtag right knee problems.
The Devils should be absolutely proud of the season they had. Jack Hughes is a superstar. He's here. He has arrived. And the regular season he arrived, but the playoffs he truly has arrived. Nico Hischier is establishing himself. I'm going to always throw shots like this where I can. And that is patience. This is just more proof to add to the massive bucket of proof that all of us can have that you need to have patience with your top 5 overall picks. Hell, maybe even arguably in hockey, probably you need to have patience with your top 10 or any of your first rounders, truly. I know not all of them pan out, but especially your top 5 picks, you have patience. Talking to you, New York, leave Lafreniere alone. He will get better.
Kako too,
exactly. Jack Hughes is going to be a bona fide superstar. And they also, like I said, you be proud of the regular season. Be proud that you knocked out one of the favorites to win the Stanley Cup that outside of Boston. You knocked out the Rangers. What's up?
No, I was gonna throw a cheap shot out there. Unless you're the Philadelphia 76ers, you got to trust the process.
Well, I mean, part of that is
just the one basketball joke I got. Don't take it from me.
Hey, that's good. You're not wrong. Trust the process. I've been saying this for 10 years, but trust the process. I mean, any team that brings James Harden in, at least you're trying, but you know you're not going to win.
Oh, that was an epic collapse.
Hey,
in Philadelphia.
And then you see Joel Embiid starting to throw everybody under the bus. I'm like, you know what doesn't happen in hockey? Teammates throwing teammates under the bus unless they absolutely – even if the teammate deserves to be thrown under the bus, they're not getting thrown under the bus.
Yeah, when's the last time you saw an MVP candidate, MVP winner at that, disappear in the playoffs and say, hockey's played 5-on-5. We got a lot of guys that need to be better.
Connor McDavid, the best hockey player we probably will ever see in our lifetime. And yes, I'm already stating that. Probably the best hockey player we will ever see in our lifetime goes up to that podium after being knocked out in the second round when his team was a clear Stanley Cup favorite, especially going into the second round. He's not going up there saying, yeah, well, you know, hockey's played with a goalie and Jack Campbell is not a goalie. Like, he's not trashing on his goalies.
Stuart Skinner's got to be better between the pipes for us.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's not what he's saying.
But anyway, the Devils should be very proud of their season. And ultimately, what did you and I talk about? Their lack of experience led to their demise. Truly.
Yeah, it was something we had said that for a couple of teams. I had said that for Seattle, and they really proved me wrong on that one. The Devils, the lack of experience showed, but they also showed they're a team that's going to be. I look at where Carolina was maybe 2-3 years ago and feel like that's kind of where the Devils are at now, where you can see the framework, you can see how they're building organizationally this team into being a perennial contender.
Yep, totally.
The future is very bright for the Devils. They just ran into a buzzsaw with Carolina.
Exactly.
Which leads me into asking Eastern Conference Finals, who you got? And one more reminder as well, betstamp.app/podsnipecelly. Make your conference finals picks. Use the Betstamp app to find your best odds there. Odds shopping wins you. What did you say it was? $1,000 more per year?
Yep.
For people using the Betstamp app. So, use that. Joel, Eastern Conference Finals, who you got?
Whew, man, this one is really tough. You got to love it. This Final Four, which all of us had this Final Four. Definitely.
Oh, yeah, just as we all predicted.
The entire Final Four and who's going to be in the Cup Final is already tough. This one, for some odd reason, and I'm probably wrong, but for some reason, this series seems harder to call. But at the same time, maybe it's easier to call. I thought about this last night, and I think I'm going to go off of this. If Bobrovsky can continue to be the number one cop on the force, and Florida can continue to ride this wave, I think Florida can do it. And I think Florida can go to their first Stanley Cup final ever, I believe. Second. Okay.
They went 95.
That's right. Okay. So their first since 95.
Yeah.
Since I was 1 year old.
Just a baby.
Just a baby. I think they could. However, it's, to me, Bobrovsky, as good as he is, he can be shaky. And I can't bet against just the sheer depth of the Hurricanes. So I think I got to go with the smart pick and take the Hurricanes. In 6.
HP saying, can this series just be for the Cup? I don't want to see the Stars or Vegas in the Cup final.
What? I don't. HP, you don't want to see Jack Eichel in the Stanley Cup final. You don't want to see Rupe Hintz or Joe.
It's not about not wanting to see those players. It's about not wanting to see those teams and those fan bases. This is more where HP's coming.
What you got against Vegas? What you got against Vegas?
There's history.
They're good for business.
It's not about that. It's about the fans more than anything with HP.
What's wrong with Vegas fans? I need to hear an example next time.
Just trust me.
Let's have an off-season show. Bring HP on, and I want to hear this story.
Yeah. David saying, HP, I can hear you yelling. Norm still sucks from here. Yeah.
Well, I understand the Dallas side of things because the North Stars belong in Texas, man. You just accept it.
You want to get striked?
It's struck, but good try.
I will strike you.
This has been grammar.
The Letterkenny reference, and one of these days when you watch the whole series,
I will strike. I've seen that episode.
but that's what he says first. It's, do you want to get striked?
You want to get striked? Yeah,
I will strike you. I'm also going to go Carolina. So many of the stats, like it almost worries me. It's like too many of the stats are in Carolina's favor. So few of the stats favored Florida. And yet here's Florida having knocked off the Toronto Maple Leafs, winning 3 road games. A team that can go out in a series and win 3 road games, you cannot take that team lightly at all. I mean, that is a scary, scary thought.
In Toronto.
Well, and especially knowing Carolina over the last 2 postseasons is something like 11-2 at home. They don't lose at home. Florida right now is not losing on the road. They had to go into Boston and win on the road in Game 7.
Yeah.
They won 3 road games against Toronto. in the second. Like they're good on the road. So,
and even elaborating more on Florida against Boston, not only did they have to go on the road in Game 7, they had to go on the road twice while being down
Game 5,
3-1 in the series. Game 5 and 7 on the road.
Yeah, they've won 5 consecutive road games.
And actually, I'm
in the
pretty
playoffs.
Sure. I'll let you talk, but I'm going to look up the
You're right,
score again. I think Florida killed Boston in Game 5 too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, backs to the wall, and they have just continued to keep chugging right along. Like you get some underdog mentality, but like you're at the final 4 teams standing at this point. Like nobody is really that much of an underdog at this point. Like you earn the right to be here, and Florida has absolutely earned the right to be here.
Oh no, they won 4-3. My fault.
Okay.
My mistake. They won an overtime. My bad.
It's game 1 of that series. I think that they won. Which
that
one also on the road?
That was in Boston. Yeah.
That was the one that they handed it to Boston. Maybe.
I think so. Yeah. Let me double confirm there.
Yeah, I'll let you keep fact checking here. I am going to go with Carolina to win the series. I'm going to say this one goes the distance. Oh, game 2. Okay.
But again, 6-3. Yeah.
Again, in Boston.
Yeah.
So
after Boston barely beat them 3-1 in the opener. So yeah. Anyway.
So they are 6-1 on the road this postseason.
Yeah.
That's a team that I don't want coming into my building, even if I've got home ice advantage. And even if I've got something like an 11-2 record over the last 2 postseasons at home. That's a tough team to beat. We're going to learn a lot about how this series is going to go based on how things look Thursday night.
And being that good on the road in the barns they've had to play in.
Yeah.
Boston, Toronto, and now Carolina. If they get past Carolina, dude, look out in the finals, man.
Those might be the 3 loudest fan bases in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
Back to back to back. Like that was all the talk of the first round series. And even in the second was how loud Carolina's barn was on any given night. And Florida's just like, we don't care. We're going to come in and beat you anyway.
Yep.
None of these teams that are left, like if they won the cup, none of them, I think at this point would surprise me. Now, had you asked me 3 weeks ago, hey, would Florida winning the cup surprise you? I would have said, are you kidding me? They wouldn't make it out of the first round. They're here. They came to play. So I'm going to go a full 7 games. I'm going to take the Hurricanes. I don't feel great about it, though.
Yeah, I only picked 6 because I think all my picks have been like outside of the first round have all been 7. I think every second round series I picked to go 7 for some stupid reason. That's just how close things have been, especially after the first round. But yeah, I don't feel good about picking 6 or picking the Hurricanes in 6, but we will see what happens Thursday night. There's no playoff hockey tonight or tomorrow, and that makes me sad.
Yeah, it's like, what do I do with my life?
Yeah.
Go to sleep early? Who does that?
It's true. Sleep is for the weak.
I probably should, but we all know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, Mr. 4.5 hours of sleep.
God, yeah, I don't know. I could not fall asleep or stay asleep last night, and that's what it showed on my tracker thing was under 5 hours of sleep. Crazy. Joel, I'm going to put you on the clock. It is that time once again. Our favorite way to close out the show, get everybody fired up. A little 2 minutes for roughing. So I'm going to get the timer queued up here. And are you going to tease the topic, or are you just going to jump right in?
Well, teasing the topic would be, in a way, rigging 2 minutes for roughing, wouldn't it?
Ooh. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
You ready to go?
Your video's lagging a little, so just tell me when to go and I'll time myself.
Well, I've got you'll hear the sound too. If the audio's still coming through okay, you'll hear the beep at the end of it.
All right. We'll both go at the same time. We'll both go at the same time, but go ahead.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
As we know, the Blackhawks won the draft lottery last Monday. The bid for Connor Bedard. Connor Bedard will be a Chicago Blackhawk on June 28th. in Nashville. And all I kept hearing, same night from you and HP, but not just you guys, from every single person not in Chicago, the draft is rigged. Oh, boo-hoo. My team didn't get the first. Shut up. Yeah, you're damn right I'm going to talk about the Hawks and Bedard. Yeah, keep yawning. The draft is not rigged. Now, side note, if it is, they did a good job. Good job, NHL. But anyway, that's more of a joke than anything else. The draft is not rigged because guess what? The same exact thing was said about Edmonton when they got like 4 out of 5 first overall picks or whatever the hell it was. It's something nuts. And they ended up with Connor McDavid amongst that too. What were a bunch of teams saying, especially in their division? Oh, they rigged it. They need Gretzky's home to be good again. Listen, they released the video. It's not rigged. Now, do I agree that a lottery is not exactly a good system? Yeah, absolutely. Totally. And I'm saying that as my team won it. My team's also only won it twice since it's been a thing. Okay? The draft is not rigged. It happens. We were the 3rd best odds to win it all. I think people just need to calm down. I understand and I get it. There's plenty of people to be mad. There's multiple reasons to be mad. We can talk about that in an off-season show, and we will. But when it comes to simply just saying, yeah, the draft is rigged, well, guess what? Quit your crying because every team that doesn't win the first overall pick cries and says it's rigged.
Couple points of clarification. When the Oilers had their string of winning the first overall pick, it was only the bottom 3 teams that were in the lottery.
Okay.
And the league has since expanded to have more teams than just your bottom 3.
Okay.
Additionally, Hawks won the lottery moving up for Kirby Dach.
That's not winning the lottery.
It was for that particular pick.
Okay.
He moved up to get that pick.
And what draft was that again?
That was 4 years ago?
Yeah. Who is the generational talent that we were going to get?
I wasn't necessarily saying anything about a generational talent that year. I'm just saying.
That's not winning.
I think the bigger issue that people had was going back to the Kyle Beach situation. We don't have time to get into.
We don't have time to get into it.
Tonight.
We will. Here's the thing, and I will tease a future episode. We will get into all of that. I have plenty of thoughts because yes, what we can at least tease of that is I agree. Were the Hawks punished enough for that? Oh God, no. The organization only they paid a settlement, of course, too, but along with the fine. No, I get it. But my only argument to that, and again, we'll argue more about that. The only argument to that is it wouldn't have even been this year's draft anyway. It would have been last year's draft.
Unless they took away more than 1 round of picks or more than 1 year's worth of first round picks.
And that's never happened in, I think, any league for no matter what the horrendous act was.
They got Arizona.
Multiple years of picks?
Yep.
Did they, though?
They did because they took away a 2nd and a 3rd round pick 1 year and then a 1st rounder the following year. That was they sent the 1st round pick that year to New Jersey for the Taylor Hall trade.
That sounds like there's a nuance in there. Whatever. We don't have time to argue about it right now.
Yeah, that's it for tonight's show. Thank you to everybody who watched, tuned in live, commented throughout the show. A ton of comments still coming in here. So thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight, commented throughout the show. Reminder that we are live Tuesday nights, 8:00 p.m. Eastern. You can catch us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Search at Snipe Celly. Also,
www.betstamp.app/Snipe Celly. Dan, you're lagging a bit, so I will do the rest of it. As Dan said, www.betstamp.app/Snipe Celly. David, you have a great night as well. For Dan, I'm Joel. Have yourself a great night, everybody. We will see you next Tuesday.